up, guys? This is the Crazy Monkey New Mexico podcast, and as always, this is your host, Nathan Wagar. You may notice an increase in audio clarity. That is because I bought this kick-ass new microphone just for podcasting. Everybody got tired of me sounding like I was in a bunker somewhere, so I decided to upgrade, and hopefully this will make your listening experience a little bit more enjoyable. And I hope you appreciate it, because I spent hours just screaming and kicking at this stupid computer trying to figure out how to use it, and apparently it's supposed to be just a plug in and use, so I guess you got to be smarter than your equipment. But anywho, before we move on to the main topic today, I just want to point something out from the last podcast that I did, the one discussing spotting the pre-assault cue for the knife. And in the video where the two Mexican chicks were fighting, she got that knife, or the blade, it's probably a razor blade, honestly, out of her hair. If you watch that clip really, really closely, I can't remember offhand if it's in that podcast footage that I provided, but if you watch the original video anyway, you see her touching her hair right before she displays that weapon cue. And that was really common where I grew up. You'd see a lot of the homegirls, they'd carry razor blades up in their hair because, chicks are always grabbing each other's hair when they would get in fights, and it would cut their hands up that way. And sometimes, as you could see in that video, they like to pull the blades out. And so if you ever piss off a Mexican chick and you're in the hood and she's all touching her hair, check her hands, because stereotypes exist for a reason sometimes. But anyway, the main topic for today is going to be covering the CIA program, and that stands for Combat Intelligent Athlete. And we're going to be discussing kind of the philosophy, the mindset behind it, kind of the vision behind it, and how it fits within the greater Crazy Monkey Defense program, what it's meant to do, and kind of what it's not meant to do, and how it differentiates from other approaches to self-defense. Okay? So the CIA program is not meant to be a standalone, and I have to be emphatic about that. Rodney is clearly outlined, and I'm a big believer in this as well, and a lot of top-level kind of reality-based self-defense instructors are endorsing this idea that you need to have a functional athletic skill set if you are going to effectively do self-defense. And at some point I'll discuss that idea more in depth, because I know that a lot of people try to contest that, but I'm just going to assume my case for this particular podcast, so bear with me. But basically, the main skill set is going to be the main delivery system, if you want to call it that. Paul Sharp kind of coined that term, so I have to give credit where credit's due there. But basically, you need to have a functional delivery system, whether that's wrestling, boxing, judo, jiu-jitsu, what have you. Most functional delivery systems are going to have similar looking movements. Our delivery system would obviously be Crazy Monkey Defense. Now, Crazy Monkey works just as well in the street as it does in the gym. But because of the nature of self-defense, we change the techniques around, and we approach not just the technical, but the contextual standpoint a little bit differently. So CIA is really meant to be taught as kind of I don't want to say a side course, but it's a plug-in. All right. We wouldn't normally just teach CIA to somebody. And the reason for that is because as a coach, you have a sense of responsibility to your clients. And a lot of reality-based self-defense instructors are comfortable with the idea of teaching somebody a bag of tricks, essentially, but they don't have the athletic skill base, the timing, the technical ability to be able to pull any of those moves off. So essentially, they wasted their money. The better your Crazy Monkey boxing is, the better your boxing, the better your wrestling, whatever, the better your self-defense is going to be. It's a lot easier to tweak someone with an athletic background like a boxer or a wrestler and teach him how to use, say, a knife, or teach him how to defend himself successfully on the street than it would be somebody who's out of shape, who's never trained a day in their life, and teach them some kind of rockin' sockin' cool guy throw or whatever. It's not going to work. And because of that, that's not always what people want to hear. They want the quick fix. I've had several people come to my gym, and basically, one guy kept asking me, he's like, so, and keep in mind, all right, I did one intro with this guy, and he was terrible. And, I don't tell him that because nobody's good their first lesson. But when you do one lesson, and then he very seriously, he folds his arms, and he's like, so, how long before I'm a good fighter? How do you answer that? If you have a realistic approach to self-defense, that's not a question you would ever answer, to be perfectly blunt. You need to be in shape if you're going to defend yourself. There has to be, go to artofmanliness.com or something and read some articles. I don't know, whatever you got to do, but there has to be a minimum level of physical fitness if you're going to successfully defend yourself. Otherwise, your best act of self-defense might be not to eat that extra donut from Krispy Kreme. I can do that because I'm always doing jiu-jitsu, boxing, whatever. But if you're huffing and puffing to change the channel on the remote right next to you, then self-defense for you is going to be a little bit different than self-defense for somebody else. So to prevent questions like that, I actually think that's one of the most responsible things that Rodney could have ever done when he created the CIA program. Is it wasn't meant to be a standalone. He was straight with people. It's like, look, you need to box. You need to have a functional skill set, and then I will teach you the Combat Intelligent Athlete program, which is we will kind of give you a set of street smarts. So you learn the CM in the gym, and then you learn the street smarts and kind of the street tweaks for outside of the gym, for that kind of specialized environment. Because the vast majority of people are never even going to be getting into a fight. So honestly, if all you're training for is self-defense and you're a middle-class white dude, that's a misallocation of time and resources, to be perfectly honest. So to try and keep Crazy Monkey as a bigger thing, as a more inclusive, holistic experience, it makes sense to have the CIA program be the official kind of plug-in approach to self-preservation for civilians. And I have to emphasize it is for civilians. We do have a combat intelligence soldier and a combat intelligence officer program that is more specialized for the law enforcement and military crowds. Excuse me for just a second. Just had a sip of imported Mexican soda. No, I'm just playing. It's American Pepsi, but you never know. You know how I am with my penchant for frou-frou drinks. Right. So, getting back to the Combat Intelligent Athlete program, there are, as of now, 4 levels. And the CIA program by itself is mainly the physical curriculum. TARMAC, which is the program that I created, is designed to go hand in hand with CIA or our other self-preservation systems as well. And it's more of the conceptual, contextual approach, like pre-assault cues and stuff like that, and the drills that integrate all of that with the physical material. And I'll cover that in another podcast. But the CIA program, the physical curriculum is all Rodney. Rodney does that. That's his baby. He created that from the ground up. And as it stands now, it has 4 main levels, and each level corresponds to a certain range. It's the same as our stand-up. And so that way a lot of the concepts are transferable. They go across the board, so you're not changing too much at all, actually. The ranges are the same and everything. So you have the CM1 range, which would be our outer boxing range. Okay, you have the CM2 range, and that would be kind of the CIA level 2. And the CIA level 3 would be covering the clinch range, and the CIA level 4 would be the ground. Now, each level of CIA kind of seems to have its own centering theme, I would say, even on a physical level. And then there's sort of the lesser techniques, if you want to call them that. And I'll kind of explain what that is and why I think this is a really helpful idea, especially from a coaching perspective. So CIA Level 1 is all about long range in the rim. And that's also where a lot of your pre-contact stuff is going to take place. So the main thing is a position that we call the bear. And yes, it bears some similarity to Jeff Thompson's defense. But the way we do it is different. We're a lot stricter about certain distances because of our boxing. And the way we hold our hands, and just from what I've seen of his stuff, just our application is a little bit different and our reasoning behind it is a lot different. So we call it the bear stance. It fits in with the idea of making yourself look bigger, but at the same time kind of closing off some lines in sort of a, not an aggressive posture, but a commanding presence. While at the same time you're presenting a barrier between yourself and the other opponent. And from there's a lot of stuff that you do, then that falls more into the TARMAC stuff. I'm kind of anal about things like where you hold your hands, excuse me, at all times, and how you stand. And I'll get into that later. But the bear is kind of the galvanizing theme of CIA1. There's also, Rodney teaches some palm strikes. We teach a lot of empty hand strikes from there as well, how to hit out of the bear, how to move to the CM1 that we already learned in the Crazy Monkey to kind of defend those incoming shots out of the bear, and how to defend against basically encroachment of space. And honestly, in most of your fights, I'd say 90%, 92.7% if you want to throw out a irrelevant statistic that I pulled out of my ass. Most of the fights are going to take place there. That's where most of the battle is won or lost. And so I would actually argue that CIA 1 is probably the most important, even if it's not necessarily the most exciting. Now, CIA Level 2 would take place in CM2 range. That tends to be, that CM2 is the Crazy Monkey Defense modified bob and weave. And it's a little bit harder to do that on the street just because people can grab onto you and you're wearing clothes at that range. So the galvanizing kind of technique, if you want to call it that, for the CM2 range for CIA Level 2 is the T-bar. It bears some similarity to Tony Blauer's spear. It's kind of like a reinforced spear in a way. And it's where your rear hand kind of supports the wrist of your front hand and you make sort of a frame, and we use it to crash in. It's really, really, I find it to be, I would say, one of the most useful tools that I've come to love for self-defense. And I didn't used to like it until I kind of came to realize its place within the program, its versatility. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You can collapse in and you can work clinch from there. It's really easy to get an underhook with it because you can use your elbow to shuck the guy's arm over. I like to use it to attach and grab the t-shirt. I mean, there's a lot of cool things you can do with that technique, and it all works off of the flinch response. And as I said before, Blauer's done a lot of good stuff on flinch, and so, a shout-out should always be thrown to people that have kind of pioneered stuff like that first, done a lot of good work like that. It bears a lot of similarity to that, and it's a really fantastic tool, and you can use it to hit really, really hard. And that's kind of that and unattached elbows are really the main kind of technical theme of the CIA 2. Now, CIA 3 is all our straightjacket clinch, and straightjacket clinch is basically a dirty boxing game where we're using hand ties to briefly check the opponent's hands with to allow openings for strikes. And I want to point out that it is not the same as trapping. And the reason for that is we have very strong, clinging, driving, wrestling head control. It is, for all intents and purposes, wrestling for the sake of striking. And the reason why we focus on dirty boxing as opposed to an actual tie-on position is because it's a safer transition point. You can always go to the straitjacket position first, and then the path is usually clear to go to the head or go to an underhook or whatever you might want to do. And also, it's a lot easier to detach. So if you're dealing with multiple opponents and stuff like that, then straitjacket makes it easier to attach onto and move away from. And it lets you utilize pops and drives and kind of more of a pushy boxing game. There's also some cool stuff you can do from there, especially that I like to do. And I have to give credit to Rodney for that. He calls it the wedgie, where you grab the pants and you use that as your grip. And I've been working a lot of stuff from there, especially with regards to preventing weapon access and stuff like that. And it is just a phenomenal technique. That's like 90% of my clinch game because, alas, I am a short lad, and it's difficult to get head control on taller people, but I can control their hips. And if I control the hips, then I control them. So straitjacket clinch is kind of the center of the CIA level 3. And CIA level 4 is, you guessed it, that would be the arena of takedown defense and ground. And all of our ground in the Combat Intelligent Athlete program is very simple. It's the idea of protecting ourselves from getting struck and getting back up. That's it. We're not really looking for Jiu-Jitsu for self-defense in that sense. There's a whole Monkey Jits program where Rodney teaches Jiu-Jitsu, and it has its focus mainly in being street effective. For the purposes of the Combat Intelligent Athlete program, level 4 is just concerned with the bare necessities necessary to get you back up and back into the fight standing, because we're always keeping in mind street scenario altercations where there's possibly weapons or a hard surface or an uneven surface and multiple opponents. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, and so the ground's not always the best place to be. And so that's kind of the physical approach that the Combat Intelligent Athlete takes. There's not a lot of techniques because, honestly, it's a plug-in. So we teach the basic Crazy Monkey Defense boxing game from the outside all the way to the modified bob and weave all the way into the dirty boxing. And then for the actual Combat Intelligent Athlete program, we teach them those kind of street tweaked techniques along with those main technical skill sets of the bear, the T-bar, and the dirty boxing game, except we can add in handles because of the clothes. And this is why that's cool. From a coaching perspective, I can get really, really deep into it. I could teach them all the different palm strikes and the intricacies of delivering this or that shot, and that's really cool. Or I can work more conceptual stuff, so if you wanted to work more of the TARMAC stuff, or maybe even you just didn't have enough time to cover all that, you could pick that one foundational technique and work all the conceptual stuff so that they can still walk out of there, out of that seminar or whatever that you did, and they will have a complete, well-rounded understanding of how to protect themselves, even though maybe they only know a couple moves. And if you have more time, or if you want to focus on just one area, you can really deepen their understanding of kind of the assault dynamic. And so for that reason, it really gives, as a coach, it gives me a lot of freedom when I teach the material. And for somebody else, if all they want to focus on is reality-based self-defense, then I can give them a very deep understanding of that material, whether technically or whether I want to drill more conceptual stuff and just use, that one technique as kind of a base. And then you can always add stuff in or take stuff out according to your prerogatives as a coach. So I really think that the CIA program, I didn't appreciate it before. I'll be honest. I didn't think it was all that. I was like, okay, whatever. But that's when I really realized Rodney was trying to do something different. I kept thinking of self-defense as its own thing. And it's not. Self-defense is just a small part of what we do and what you do as a practitioner. Even if that's what you mainly come there for, you're not really there just for self-defense unless you're a professional. And if you're a professional, you don't have that much time to train it anyway. So it all goes back to, what are you really there for? And so once I realized that, I realized that all the techniques that were in the CIA program were necessary. It didn't need a lot. And anything that I thought might have been missing is already, the slack is taken up by the fact that you have that functional delivery system. And that's really what lets you kind of make things up on the fly to deal with any contingencies that might pop up. And the streets and Crazy Monkey Defense in and of itself, it works just as well out of the box, like a new Glock, pretty much, on the street. So any contingency that might arise, Crazy Monkey, Red Zone, you're good to go. It's just CIA is a little bit more specialized. And also, it's the responsible thing to tell people. A big problem I have with certain reality-based, I won't name it, but Middle Eastern, Near Eastern, whatever you want to call it, Palestinian area. Sorry, that was a politically charged statement right there. But they do things like incorporate stuff like, say, Jiu-Jitsu, but they don't roll. And hell, look at any white belt. You teach them the scissor sweep. Can they do the scissor sweep? No, not for like a year. Hell, I still can't seem to pull off the scissor sweep. I can berimbolo my little butt off, but man, you give me like a normal white belt move, and I'm just like, it does not compute, So, but we know that these techniques, they take time and live application and regular sparring and rolling. You do not get the skills you need for self-defense unless you have an alive, and again, all that credit goes to Paul Sharp, Straight Blast Gym, alive training. You need to spar. You need to spar and you need to roll. And then you have the skills necessary to actually make the moves in a self-defense system work. They're not meant to be apart. You gotta do something physically active with your life. And we choose boxing. And then we use that base, that athletic base, and we tweak it for the CIA program. And that's reality. And that's the nicest thing we could do to our clients, even if that's not what they think they want. They want that crash course in self-defense. Well, we're telling you, this is how you're going to actually defend yourself. You need to take yourself, your family, and your training seriously. You need to train long term. And then every now and then you can do a rotation through the CIA program. But if you're serious about self-defense, this is how you do it. You don't take a crash course in Krav. You don't take a crash course in, whatever, I don't even know what it's called, but where they put the big head on the guy and you just go and kick him right in the nuts. Yeah. The adrenaline training or something like that. That's not going to save you. What's going to save you is a functional skill base that you then apply to self-defense. And that is where the CIA program really shines. Now, can I teach it in a seminar? Of course, and you will get something out of it. But I'm telling you, just man to man, or man to woman, if you are an individual that is serious about actually defending yourself, sign up. Sign up and start boxing. Come to my gym. I will show you the ropes, and I will personally make it my mission to make sure that you are not hurt, that you have fun, that you develop a skill set, and that's where you're going to develop your confidence. And then through progressive stress inoculation training in the boxing, you will gradually have the mindset necessary to go to the CIA program and be able to approach it with the proper frame of mind. Because otherwise, you're still going to be scared. A lot of people, they start self-defense because something bad happened. They're scared. And they want to learn self-defense right away. It's not how it works. Like anything, you want to get good at it, it takes time, it takes effort. And it takes you to not be gun shy, because let's face it, if something bad happened to you, if you got your butt whipped or something even worse happened, God forbid, but you need to give yourself time too. You can't just jump on the horse, right? You're scared of the horse. So you got to master yourself. Easiest way to do that is through a positive experience in a combat-focused, skill-based martial art or system like boxing or wrestling or something that will let you build your confidence back up, because you've had it shattered. All right, we'll build it back up in a positive environment with a coach who gives a shit about you. And then we will show you how to take it to the next level if necessary. And you'll be in the right frame of mind and have the confidence to do it. And you'll know that it'll work because you'll have been putting in those hours at the gym. And boxing doesn't lie. You either did it well or you got hit. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. That's sort of a little bit about the Combat Intelligent Athlete program. And if you have any more questions, as always, you can email me, Nathan Wagar, one word, @yahoo.com. Crazy Monkey New Mexico Facebook, look it up. And you can contact me at area code 505-385-0224. But that's all, and stay safe.
Choke again. I find my demons were my friends. Pity me, in the end they're out to get me. Since I was young, I've tasted sorrow on my tongue, and this sweet sugar gun